Hello and welcome to what should be the first of a series of paint tutorials on this channel. In today's video, we're going to be tackling the classic Games Workshop 1990s Goblin Green bases. Now, if you're anything like me and you've tried to replicate these bases in modern day, you might have had trouble, because modern paints are less vibrant than the paints that were used in the 90s. This video is to try to give you the bases that you desire. The first step on getting the classic Goblin Green look is the texture. Now, if you look closely at pictures of old Goblin Green based miniatures, they're actually based using sand, so I'm going to show you how to apply that now. So taking an old brush, we're going to put a generous amount of PVA glue on there, just to hold the sand in place. Make sure it's a very generous amount. And don't be too mindful at this point on where the miniature's meant to be on the base, because we're just going to be putting it in the sand face down and scraping off the excess. So just make sure that there's sand just everywhere, all on the top of the base, and we're going to be pulling that off now. Now, to get rid of the excess, we're going to be using a texture paint applicator. Now, the way we're going to be using this is we're going to be using the pointy end just for any holes and any slots in the base, as you can see here, and we're going to be using the flat end just for any areas where there might be another shoe, or where the base is, and if they haven't got a slot or a pegs. But as you can see here, I'm using the thin end just to clear out the slot. Once that's done, I'm making a space for the other boot of this space mode. Now that's pretty simple, so after that, I'm just going to use the big one just to get all the little bits of sand, just to make sure it'll work really well with the plastic glue. Now I've undercoated these bases white, because the first step is going to be applying a lime green, and that green is going to be a lot brighter over the top of the white base coat. So thinning it down with a generous amount of water, we're just going to take quite a large base brush, and we're just going to coat all over the top of the white. And you can see here, I'm just going to coat every bit, getting it into all the cracks and crevices. This is just to give it that nice, vibrant green as a starting point, just to get us on the right track for the Goblin Green that we're aiming for. Next, we're going to use a green wash. I'm using Qualia Green Shade from Citadel, and we're just going to coat the whole base, just slather the entire thing in this green wash. Then, a dry brush of a khaki green, and just all over the top to bring out the slightly yellowish highlights that are prominently featured on the 90s Goblin Green bases. Swift up and down motions, making sure to try to get all the grass evenly. Now, after that's done, we're going to mix War Flesh from Citadel and the lime green that we used earlier in a roughly 50-50 to get that authentic Goblin Green colour, where it's sort of a foresty green, and we're going to use that to edge the base. Now, if you look on Goblin Green bases, the edge is always slightly darker than the dry brush top, so that's the effect we're aiming for on this base here. Now, if you had any sculpted detail originally on the base, you might be wondering what to do with that. Paint it green or do it up in rock? And I actually was thinking that myself with this Black Templar's Marshall base, so I did a bit of research and I realized you could do either, so we're going to be going with some rock. To start, we're going to be basing with just some medium grey. I'm using Dawnstone from Citadel, 2 thin coats to just get nice even coverage. Now, because that was nice and thin, we've got a really nice smooth surface for applying this black wash. I'm using Nuln Oil from Citadel. Now this is really going to bring out all that nice rocky surface texture that we've got on top here. Now, once that's done, we're going to dry brush on a little bit of some lighter stone. So we're just going to take this and take our dry brush from earlier, and we're going to use the same technique of brushing up and down to bring the light back into the rock that we darkened down with our wash. And finally, we're going to paint any final details, such as this little baby skull that's left on the base. We're just going to touch that with a little bit of some bone coloured paint before giving it a nice brown wash. I'm using Agric's Earthshade from Citadel. As you can see, here's what the Goblin Green bases look on some finished miniatures, my retro-themed Templars. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, then leave a like and subscribe to the channel so that it's clear that you want to see more of this type of content. Thanks, and I'll see you next time. Bye!